I was surprised that I had beef with Busyworks. No, this is not a video of me and Busyworks going back and forth. It's actually the second public conversation I've had with him, and it's a conversation I really enjoyed having. And it's probably not what you expected for a producer interview. It certainly wasn't what I expected. And so I was happy to step away from talking about YouTube keywords and sample clearance just for an hour. And we had an honest and challenging conversation about producer beef, about communication, about perspectives, about understanding, about self-sabotage. A lot of difficult topics. Shout out to everybody that's tuning in. I'm trying really hard to put the timestamps in. Usually when I make these videos, it's 1 in the morning, so timestamps. I won't make excuses. We talk a lot about accountability in this conversation as well. So I'm going to continue trying. I appreciate all of you. I'm so close to 100,000 subscribers. Thank you all. Tune in. I'm live on Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on BeatStars Live. Dame is live on Mondays at the same time, same place. And shout out to everyone that tuned in. Shout out, of course, to Busyworks for being a part of this conversation. Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
And I pulled up the DJ Pain One kit that you just sent me and that we just came out. Pulled up the loops, the drum loops. Rarely do I use drum loops, like rarely. And then I pulled up, I forget which drum loop, but it fit so perfectly. I was like, thank goodness, because if I would have had to manually program the drums, I probably would have messed up that entire video. So shout out to you one time.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think, so I guess we can consider our beef completely resolved then.
Oh yeah, bring up, I honestly forgot what did I say?
I forgot about it. Something about me being a cancer on the hip hop community, and how you were in Milwaukee looking for me, and I was hiding in the house, and I'm making all this stuff up. I don't remember. Oh, I don't know. What did you say? You're the one who said it.
No, okay, maybe I was speaking about. If I did say a cancerous thing, I even thought that about MG the Future at one point. Because they were so spicy, I never understood, and I'm speaking in general because I don't remember all the facts. But
you absolutely did not use the cancer metaphor to describe me. I just made that up.
Okay, your perspective, I guess, back in the beginning, when you were a leader, you were a voice, and I guess I always saw your brand as like speaking to the spam or the scammy stuff, like don't get scammed by this. I don't know. It always seemed like I know what you're doing now, which is defending people from their ignorance, because I do the same exact thing. Like once you get into business, you can see the BS from a mile away. Do you agree?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it hurts my soul. Like I'm telling you this, it hurts my soul when I go to a business conference and I'm just listening to these salesmen stand on stage and basically lie to people by omission, trying to make entrepreneurship seem so easy and like passive income and all this stuff. And I'm just like, they are lying to you. Like I want to pull my hair out. That's how mad I get. And I'm trying to defend them. Like, don't listen to this guy on stage, but at least have the facts. Like at least know that it's kind of scammy the way he's talking. So I see that perspective. Am I getting that right as to why you speak on that so much? Like that side of the industry? People getting taken advantage of?
I mean, I'm consistently having producers contact me asking me, hey, what do you think about this? Or, and my thing is, I am a producer in the producer community. I'm not a guy that makes money off the producer educator space to the extent that people think I do. Like I'm a full-time YouTuber or anything like that. I make beats. That's what I do. And so anytime a scam comes up, I'm right there getting the emails, getting the DMs, getting tagged. And then on top of it, I'm getting other producers who look up to me as someone that can, I don't know, be a myth buster in the producer world, sending me all these screenshots of emails they're getting and sharing horror stories and talking about how they got taken for $500 because someone scammed them out of a placement that didn't exist, or whatever the case was. So I'm just inundated with it all. And it seems like every day something new comes out that is just so predatory, and they're trying to victimize all of us. They're trying to victimize me. They're trying to victimize my peers. They're trying to victimize my supporters. And so I don't see too many people speaking on that stuff. And I think a lot of people are trying to be political, or they're trying to just not waste their time because they think it's an obvious scam. And of course, no one's going to fall for that. People are falling for it left and right. And if I have a platform and I'm releasing content anyway, I just feel like I may as well point it out.
Facts. And aren't you an Aries too?
I'm a Libra.
No, where are you Aries from? We must have had a conversation a long time ago. I'm mixing that up. So you're a Libra, so that's end of October?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think it's all of October up until October 23rd, maybe.
When's your birthday?
21st. It's coming up.
Yeah, man. There we go. Awesome. So the Libra is very, that's the scale of justice, right?
Yeah. So it makes total sense.
And yeah, I'm with you 1,000%. I'm glad you brought that up, because one issue, did you cover the $500 mixtape submissions that a lot of big rappers were doing?
We spoke on it on the podcast, but I know that the people at djbooth.com covered it extensively. So okay. I kind of feel like, they did like investigative journalism and really explained it all. So I don't know what I need to say.
Like, the game is going to hit you up, or the Fat Joe. I forget who was involved, but that's when it happened recently to somebody who watches my channel. And he was asking me, do you think this is a good opportunity? And I'm sitting there weighing it like a businessman. Like, why would this huge artist want to be hitting you up for a place on their mixtape, but he didn't listen to your song? It just didn't make any sense.
Right.
And that actually hit home. And I was like, oh, these are the people that you're protecting. Because the person almost went through with it because it was a big name rapper. And if I didn't say anything, he probably would have went through with it even further. So that's when I was like, okay, DJ Payne 1 is clearly just trying to protect the same way I'm trying to protect. And that's why I asked if you were an Aries, because part of an Aries is we have a natural ability to want to protect people. So that's why I asked you about that. Now, since I can't remember exactly how I offended you, that doesn't mean I didn't offend you. So first, I got to apologize, because back then I was very competitive. So if somebody was against whatever the motion was at the time, I'd be like, I was even kind of adversarial against Illmind at some points, like just to be contrarian. So that was a weird period. I just talked about that with Ocean on our YouTube channel just a second ago.
I think that strategy works, but my bad, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, there's a period in the beginning, I think, when we're all trying to get our voice, we are on full-on competition mode.
Yep. And
then when we realize, okay, we're all like, you're a leader, I have my own space, whoever, Curtis King, whomever, MG the Future, then we're like, oh, we don't have to keep fighting for position, we're already in position. Have you butt heads and then later made peace with folks, or is it just F them for life, or how did you go about moving forward?
I think surprisingly, I don't feel like I butt heads with too many people. I mean, obviously, if I made a video about the Instagram scams, all the people that were selling the beat selling guides that just taught you how to steal a young woman's profile photos, create a fake page, and then spam the hell out of rappers saying, hey, my CEO loves your beats. I called that out, and yeah, I had some people threatening me, but it was just the people that were doing it. It was like 3 people. So I don't really look at that as beef in the producer community, because I just don't respect those people. So it's not something that affects me in any sort of profound spiritual way. I feel like I'm pretty isolated, honestly. I meet the people that are doing things and I respect them, whether it's you, whether it's Curtis King, whether it's Lifestyle. There are very few people that I don't have, or that I do have issues with, to the point where I won't even say their names. But I've made tons of mistakes. I think I publicly apologized to Johnny Giuliano for being an asshole way back. Sometimes I'm dead wrong, and I don't want to be the guy that publicly messes up and privately apologizes for it. Because that's something that people have done to me, and that has always bothered me. It seemed really cowardly.
Well, yeah, I think that's a good stance to have as far as making decisions. But I think what it comes down to is you can be, whatever the proper word is, abominably opposed. You use a lot of cool phrases. What's the word? Somethingly opposed. Fill in the blank, chat. What am I trying to say? What's the key word I'm trying to say? You can be opposed to somebody very heavily, is what I'm trying to say.
Diametrically opposed?
Diametrically opposed. There we go. Diametrically opposed.
I knew I would use my master's degree someday.
There we go. Thank you for pulling that out of your brain cells. Diametrically opposed. So at one point, I'm here to talk about anything. So at one point, I was diametrically opposed to the messaging from this creator called MG The Future, because he was talking about how funnels were a scam and all this type of stuff. And I was upset because I'm like, this is the knowledge that people need to just get to the next level of business. So, and it ties into the whole BeatStars thing, because the whole model of business was all about send people to your beat store. They probably didn't even know about email lists at the time. They didn't know about Facebook marketing. They didn't know about any of that before you really started pressing the gas on helping people understand that. And I'm just like, I know how long these people have been ignorant about this topic. So please let them grow. This isn't a scam all the time, just because somebody says funnel. So long story short, what it came down to, I made peace with them ever since. But long story short, what it comes down to is that we were just so passionate about protecting our people. That's all we care about. It's just that I had a different perspective. He had a different perspective, but we're doing the same exact thing, which is trying to protect these people and let them see what joy is like, fulfillment, living the life they want to live, because I've seen it myself and I want everybody else to experience the same happiness. And I think you were doing the same exact thing. So once we all realize, oh, we're really just trying to help people get to their best self, that's when we stop being so like about every little thing that happens. Now, if we want to dig today, I'll get into some people that I'm opposed to today. I mean, if you want to get spicy, as they as they call it.
No, I think I'd rather be substantive. That's my
okay.
Preferred S word. But yeah, I mean, okay, two things for the record. I absolutely don't. I was not offended. I didn't even know about what you said about me, and to the point where even today I don't even remember it. But you're the one that reached out and said, "Oh, by the way, I said this." I was like, "Oh, that's a popular opinion." I think it was something about just me being negative, which, you know, I get. And I agree with your point that I think all of us are just doing what we think we're supposed to do to give the community, the producer community, what we would want for ourselves. I know that we can't all possibly have the right answers. And at a point, and I would like to, in the future, in the near future, make a video apologizing for this, because there were many moments in my journey where I was ignorant about the whole online beat licensing space. Quite a bit. Very, very ignorant. In spite of me kind of, you know, easing my way into it, now I'm full on. But before that, I was resistant to the concepts and the practices, and I spoke on a lot of things that I wasn't experiencing, and I would like to, you know, offer some apologies and some clarity on that in another video. But what I really want to do today is just talk about you and your journey. Like I said, this was one of the most highly anticipated conversations, just because I think you've touched so many producers, and you're really the guy that taught an entire generation of producers and continue to teach an entire generation of producers the ins and outs of their preferred DAW. So in terms of education, I know you have a background that isn't necessarily all musical, like many of us. I mean, I went to school for something totally different. What was your educational experience and work experience before you became a full-time music producer entrepreneur?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the reason I was talking about all these relationship things before I get into the story is because, I'll be going live tonight at 9 p.m. about relationships. If you guys don't understand relationships, you can make $1 million in a year, and that could be your limit. You have to understand when you get to a certain point, you have to network. And networking is going to require the skill called relationship building. Like DJ Payne One talks to a lot of different folks. So he's seasoned when it comes to different perspectives. He's seasoned when it comes to keeping the conversation flowing. Like, for example, I usually have to write notes for my guests because I'm not sure if they know how to keep a conversation up. So I'm like, okay, we're on step 2. Okay, let's talk about blah, blah, blah. We're freestyling right now. That lets me know that he's skilled in this relationship building aspect. Now, going back to my story, that's why I wanted to start out with the stuff we were talking about, because if they don't understand what's on this side and how to be political and, not phony, but diplomatic, then you can get a lot of success, but then be limited if you don't know how to get to that next level through diplomacy. So I'm glad we exposed some of those previous things, because we had to make peace. Even though I had, I guess, my opinion at some point about DJ Payne One's content, I had to make my peace about it and understand his truth so that we can have this conversation. And the conversations we had on the phone and other places and the mastermind group and everywhere else, in order to operate and help him grow and help, whatever my vision is as well. So getting to the story, I guess the quicker story is I went to school for biology, which is I went for pre-med. I was trying to be a doctor, basically, because my mom grew up in the healthcare industry and that's all she knew. Her dad wanted to be a doctor and that just got passed on to me. So went for 4 years, graduated from Villanova with a bachelor's in biology and pre-med. I went to go take the MCAT test and I realized I wasn't spending those 4 years studying for the MCAT. I was spending the 4 years just trying to pass and get good grades and survive. So it let me know, I'm like, okay, am I really going to sit here for another 4 years just to study for a test? And I had to ask myself that hard question, because time you can't buy back. And I want to ask you about this. How do you feel about not average folks, but like people who you're investing your energy into, maybe a mentee or a relationship, and they just don't value your time? Like, how do you deal with that?
It's frustrating. In retrospect, I went through that so much from maybe 2002 until about 2001 until about 2010. I went through that, just investing in other people, investing time, investing energy, sharing opportunity. And it got to the point where I was just wasting my time. And all of those people into whom I invested that energy just gave up. And I looked at myself, and this is something that I'm happy to see producers getting out of, this pattern of feeling like you need other people around you to do something important. And that's how I felt. I felt like I needed a rapper. I felt like I needed a team. I didn't want to just be out there by myself. I was afraid. I didn't feel like I had the right personality to be my own entity. I needed other people around me, and all those other people abandoned me. And how I look at it, how I choose to look at it, is I learned a lot. One, I learned how to spot bullshit. So I learned a boundary. And two, I learned everything that I learned, but I was, investing my energy into marketing the team. I was investing my energy into promoting the group. And all I had to do once those relationships failed was take those lessons and apply them to myself. And once I did that, all of a sudden, I have a music career. I didn't when I was doing it with the other people. And now I'm so much more discerning and so much more experienced. I'm finding the right people for me because I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what I need. I know who can complement that. And they see it too. And so it makes a lot more sense to form a relationship with somebody once you're solid in your own goals and your own practices. And so I think it's unfortunate that time gets wasted, but you can't get it back. So
facts. You said something
there's a lesson.
Yeah, you said something really important, which is at the end. So people like me and you, what separates us really is that we've gone through so many experiences of being left behind, left out, people just not doing what they said they're going to do, people wasting our time. And all that experience from being burned from like a flaw that we had or a weakness that we had. We said, oh, here's a hole in ourselves. Let's fix that hole. And then we're like, okay, now we're not bleeding as much. Imagine your body, right? I know this is weird. We're talking about biology and pre-med. Imagine a body standing here bleeding and it has 100 holes in it. So the 100 holes are all the people who are just draining you of your energy and don't have any good intentions. So now you're like, okay, here's a flaw. I'm giving my time away without qualifying people. Boom, plug that hole. I trust people too quick. Boom, plug that hole. And all these little things you find out about yourself until you build your self character up and you work on those little flaws. And then you retain your blood and your flows to where you're self-sustainable and you're not feeling so drained anymore. And that has to burn you like 1,000 times for you to really understand what we talked about in the very beginning, which is that Phoenix energy. I said the other day, I'm like, I already died 1,000 deaths. I'm not scared to die another death. That's not what scares me. What scares me is not reaching my potential. That's what scares me. What scares me is knowing that I'm on this earth to do something important and then I don't do what the heck I was sent here to do. So I'm going to get back into my story, but there's 3 main things you guys need to know. 1 is show love. Give people hugs, like build people's confidence up. Show them that you care and that they're not alone on this planet. Like we're not built to be alone. That's what magnetism is for. There's a positive, there's a negative. So we're built to have attraction and affinity. The second one is be filled with the spirit of truth. Like today, I had to look at DJ Payne One's scenario and look through his shoes as best as I could. I was talking to my best friend Jacob about this, and he was saying, I actually want to try this with you before I get to the point, because this might be eye-opening. And Jacob, if you're watching this and I screw it up, my bad. So just before this call,
shout out to Jacob.
He's doing it. He's great. You gotta love that guy. So yeah. He said, okay, close your eyes. Yeah, you're automatically, he's a really good friend, I will say. But that's why he's your best friend. So everybody in the chat, I need you guys to close your eyes. Unless you're driving, okay, don't close your eyes. Or running somewhere. Okay, so close your eyes and imagine a red apple. Now, when you're imagining that red apple, is it 2D or 3D? DJ Payne One.
Mine is 3D.
Yours is 3D. Okay. Now let's hold the image of the 3D red apple in our head. And now let's change the red apple into purple. Promises has a purpose to it. So I want you to honestly say, can your brain formulate a purple 3D apple?
It looks really ugly.
Now, when I did the exercise, I couldn't for the life of me form a 3D purple apple. Now I'm gonna try it one more time. Do you have a pet? I think.
Yep.
Is it what type of pet?
Cat.
A cat. Okay. So what color is your cat?
Like a beige.
Okay. So let's imagine whatever your personal pet is. Let's close our eyes and imagine your personal pet, whatever color it is. But for DJ Payne One, he is a beige cat. Now in my head, I'm imagining a beige cat. Now let's change that beige cat into a white colored cat. Now, is it easy or difficult to translate the beige into white?
It's difficult. It's an entirely different cat.
It looks like a whole different cat, right? Yeah. And the whole point of this exercise is to say that we can communicate all day long, but the issue is that if somebody doesn't have, like, for example, if it's, I forget what my mentor called it, but the power to step into your shoes, DJ Payne One. So earlier I had to say, oh, he's really just protecting through his lens. So we humans have the ability, I think at age 5, to understand another person's perspective through their own intentions and their behaviors. And so, for example, the experiment went this way. I think it was a crayon box, and a 3-year-old puts crayons in the crayon box. They ask the parent, the researcher asked them what the parent thinks is in the crayon box. They say crayons. And then they take out the crayons and they close the box again and ask the 3-year-old, what does the parent think is in the crayon box? And they say crayons. And then, so they do it again with like a 5 or 7-year-old. They put the crayons back in the crayon box, ask the kid what the parent thinks is in the crayon box. They say crayons. Then they take out the crayons in front of the parent, close the crayon box, and then ask the 7-year-old, what does the parent think is in the crayon box? And they say nothing. So at some point we developed this ability to imagine, or through communication, step into the mind of DJ Payne One to see his perspective of the truth. And that's what I mean by be filled with the spirit of truth. It's not just your perspective. You have to have a skill to transfer your energy through somebody else's lens and look at the scenario through their lens until you see your side and their side. And once you have those two sides, then you have a more formal agreement on what the truth actually is. So again, show love, be filled with truth, and lastly, complete your assignment. My assignment is to give Bibles. So I say I go so hard in business because I need to complete my assignment. It's not about, do I feel like I'm going to fail? I already know I'm sent by the Most High to do what I have to do. That's not even a question anymore. I don't even question, does God exist? Because I've already felt the source of joy before. So why would I question something I've already experienced? What I need to question is, am I going to tap into my 100% self, or am I just going to give up and flop and do what I've been doing, not getting the results I want? So I'm not afraid of the death aspect. And I think that's something that we had to overcome by having all those scenarios in our life where we were let down 1,000 times. Because now we're like, okay, I got to do it myself then. So that's what I meant by the Phoenix energy. Now, recently, for you, what's something that you might want to share with people, the insight you've gained from maybe a flaw that you just recently saw within yourself?
One of my big struggles is accountability. And so that's kind of why I brought up earlier that I put out so much content over the years, and now that I'm going back to look at some of it, I think, God, I don't feel that way now because my experiences have changed. I've met people, I've stepped into their shoes, I've filled my own head with their experiences. I've experienced things that I didn't know were possible 5-10 years ago. So taking accountability, not just brushing that under the rug and saying, oh yeah, things change, but just saying, look, I had some opinions that were wrong. They were based on my experiences at the time, but I think it's a flaw for me to look at what I did in the past from the lens of the past. I'm smarter now. I'm more experienced now. I can look at it and say, look, I was wrong. It's on me. Let me try to offer some clarity and hopefully undo some of the damage that I might have done by putting out that information in the past.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing that and I feel like on Twitter, you're like the voice that I always look for like the next thought of conversation. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll be skimming down the Twitter timeline. I'm like, okay, cool tweet. But then when I see a Pain One tweet, I'm like, okay, this is about to be some kind of conversational piece. I feel like that's where you're really shining as far as getting to people's thoughts. Just from an outside perspective, you make it fun on Twitter, for one. I want to say that. It's getting
fun now. I don't know what happened to it. It was boring for like a year, and then it made a comeback. Everyone's back on Twitter now, especially the producers. I kind of love it. It's like the place for dialogue among producers. It's kind of like a hidden secret for us.
True. You never know what you're going to get in that treasure box. Oh, man.
That's true.
But I love that accountability, and I think this is why so many people, and how did you word it? You worded it earlier a different way. You said the people that you've invested time in, there was only like a small percentage of people that actually, here, I'll reword it, but I'm kind of paraphrasing what you said. As a leader, as DJ Payne 1, I understand this frustration, which is you have insight and you're trying to help as many people as you can. Now, DJ Payne 1 could tell you the exact formula on how to set up your accounts, how to set up your advertising, and how to set up your email marketing. And let's say he talks to 10,000 people. Only 10 people of the 10,000 will actually do the steps that he's saying. And that is the most frustrating thing about being a leader, is that you think, because you have all this knowledge and wisdom, that people are just going to listen to you and do it to get to their result. But a lot of people say they want a result, never do anything that you tell them to do step by step. And then you're still trying to invest in time to save them. And you have this, like, it's called what do they call it? The Jesus Christ syndrome, which is that you have the feeling that you could save everybody. But sometimes people subconsciously don't want to be saved. And you just have to realize, like, that's going to be the toughest struggle for you guys coming up. Just realizing that everybody says they want something, they don't actually want it. And that's going to hurt more than you failing, is just watching other people not listen to the results that they want. How do you feel about that?
That is absolutely information that I wish I had internalized 15 years ago, because it was painful. I'll put it this way. I was in a rap group for a long time with someone I considered my best friend. And all of a sudden, I have a music career. Kind of, not necessarily the music career, but I have, the door just flies open. Suddenly I'm on a #1 charting album. And I have access to a whole new world. And I'm looking at that new access as something that I can share with this group and really take it to the next level. So I remember I went out to New York. I joined Violated, All-Star DJ, shout out to them. I'm working with, back when Violated had an office, you know, rest in peace, Chris Lighty. I met him. I met everybody there. They were next door to a licensing company that licensed music, and they got us the opportunity to submit music for the Splice not the Splice campaign, sorry, the Sprite campaign, when they had Drake as the face of Sprite for, you know, a season. And they selected our music. We were on the campaign. They paid us $1,500 for one song, non-exclusive. And we're on the Sprice, now I'm combining the two, the Sprite website. And I'm like, look what we can do together. Look what we can accomplish. I have resources now. All of a sudden he's on drugs. And like not cool drugs, like really bad drugs. And I basically watched my friend, I don't know if he's I don't know where he is right now or what he's doing, but I watched my friend kill himself and self-destruct, and I watched him kill his music career and all his prospects, and these were shared prospects, and that was painful. That was, you know, because I was failing every day. Every time I sent an A&R or a manager a batch of beats and never got a return, never got a reply, never got a placement, that was happening every day. Eventually that stopped hurting. I'm not scared of that anymore. But it's terrifying to see somebody that you care about fail like that.
True. And you spoke to something that I learned in the book. I know there's a lot of controversy around this guy. Have you heard the author L. Ron Hubbard?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the
Scientology
guy. Yeah.
Yeah, Dianetics. There's a book called The Science of Thought, or the basic, I forget the name of it. I think it's called The Science of Thought, The Fundamentals of Thought, something like that. In the book, he talks about what Grant Cardone talks about hilariously. Have you heard about Grant Cardone's 10X?
Yeah. Yep.
10X came from this book. I'm letting y'all know the secret. Okay, so there's four stages of creation. There's create, which is what Grant Cardone's talk about, 10X and everything, just going hard at everything. Then there's create, destroy, which is like creating with counter intentions. And then there's destruction, which leads to nothingness, which leads back again in the circle. And I think people who don't have their subconscious mind set up right, you wanted to create and you were going into your create phase, but they weren't. It's what's a car? I'm trying to think of a car. A Honda Civic going on the Autobahn, and the objective is to hit 300 miles an hour. Now, if you're in a Ferrari, DJ Payne one's in a Ferrari. He's polished his car to be a Ferrari. The other person, his friend, didn't really polish his car, upgrade his car. It's in a Honda Civic. So now we're pushing 80 miles an hour. We're cool. We're on the same highway. We're going straight forward. Now we're hitting 100. Now the Honda Civic starts to shake a little bit. And now the Ferrari is just smoothly cruising. Now we're at 150. Now the Honda Civic pulled over because they're scared that the engine's going to blow up and the car is about to shake apart. But the Ferrari keeps going up until 250 miles an hour and on and on and on. If we don't have our subconscious mind, the car in this case, ordered, polished, and upgraded, it doesn't matter how fast we want to go. At some point, we're going to reach this inner destructive force. And I guess a better question is, how do you prepare for that? I think we just got to keep going through these experiences until we fill those holes. But I'm glad that you're matured through experience. You're not just somebody who's just telling people what to meditate all day long. I mean, do you meditate? I don't want to bash meditating.
Yeah, no, I do.
Oh, see, I almost said something bad about meditate. No, you're not just one of those people like, all right, meditate, drink tea. You've actually gone through some stuff. Now, do you think that translates into people's content and music as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's easier to look at someone's content based on your experience with yourself and with other people and kind of say, all right, I'm sensing that this person might not be as experienced as they say they are, or I'm sensing that what they're saying maybe comes from a place of frustration within themselves and not actual benevolence. Not everyone can do that, and not everyone who does it is always correct, but I think, yeah, it does shine through. I mean, when people will watch my videos, and sometimes I'll get comments saying, man, it looks like you had a hard day that day, or why you seem a little off today. And I'm like, you son of a bitch, I was. How did you know that? I mean, not everybody. I'll have a great day, and I'll put out a video, and people will be like, man, Payne, you just seem so angry. You hate the world. And I'm like having the time of my life. But some people can do that, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can definitely sense when a creator, like I had to reach out to a couple friends recently because you can tell from their social media posts, what they start liking, what they start posting, that they're going through some type of phase. And sometimes you got to be aware of that so you can actually hit them up, because the reason they're projecting it is because nobody's talking about it in their personal life. There's nobody to talk to. So they have to project it out, hoping that something will respond. So as a friend, that's just a skill as a friend. You got to be aware of these signals to then hopefully address that issue that somebody's having. And it will affect your content. And it's happened plenty of times. Like today, like my personal life isn't the greatest situation. So I might be projecting some scenarios from that issue through just the stories that I'm telling. Or I don't know, some people get anxious and different things. I forgot where we came from, because I had a point I was trying to make. What was the root? What were we talking about at the root? This is how you can tell it's a good conversation, because we just go off on these uncharted lands. It was about content, energy, people going through stuff.
People being able to tell what,
Here it is.
Internally what's happening, yeah.
Self-sabotage. Here's about your friend's story about destroying the opportunities. Here's something that I want to hear your experience about this. And we'll be talking about it tonight at 9 p.m. on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be talking about romantic relationships, though. But through romantic relationships, I've seen this the most, which is somebody can have the best opportunity in front of them, the best conditions, the best environments, and still their subconscious mind will find a way to self-sabotage and destroy the opportunity. And it happens all the time. That's why we made that metaphor. I made the metaphor about the Honda Civic and then the Ferrari. You got to work on your receptivity. Is that a word? Receptivity?
Probably receptiveness. I don't know.
Receptiveness.
I know receptiveness is a word.
Whatever the word is. So you got to be a giver and a receiver. If you're not able to receive, you're going to keep self-sabotaging over and over and over and over again. It's a constant learning. I mean, you're going to constantly learn that. Do you have a mentor like that you claim is your mentor?
I guess nowadays I have a few. They might consider themselves peers, but they're people I look up to.
Who? I mean, you want to name them, or you keeping them secret?
No, I mean, Mike Trampy is one. Dream Life is one. There are people in my life, like Tina G is one. Yeah, I'm fortunate to have a lot of good people in my life, good and honest people that are holding me accountable, are giving me non-reactive advice and sharing the best information that they can.
Mm-hmm. Reason I asked was because in order for you to level up, you have to have mentorship, for example, or somebody ahead of you. Excuse me. And a lot of us make the mistake of thinking we know it all. Like, I had to make it very clear, and I'll just kind of put it out there. There was somebody who asked me about YouTube and about why his channel isn't growing. And this is a personal conversation. It wasn't paid or anything. We were just talking as friends because I want to see him succeed. And I think the phone conversation went on for like an hour or two. And I told him, hey, man, like, you've been talking about 40 minutes of the hour. I think I talked maybe 10 to 20 minutes of this whole hour. And I said, the reason you're not seeing results is because you're not listening. You're not listening to the person who actually has the results. and has the experience and is telling you step by step. You're talking, and by him talking, even just talking, it's a subconscious mechanism that justifies that he thinks he knows the answer. And so he's trying to put the blame off on this and that. I'm like, you don't know the answer. So just, you got to be receiving. So whenever I'm around a mentor, for example, that's a good way to practice receiving, is just try not, I put up an Instagram story that said, the only words I've said to my mentor is thank you. You saved my life. That's 6 words in my entire lifetime that I've said to a man that made me over 7 figures in all his trainings. I've studied his stuff nonstop from top to bottom, day after day after day after day after day. And I only said 6 words to him. Now imagine how much receptivity you have to have everywhere else you're trying to be successful, in romantic relationships, in your business dealings. And I really don't think people have that muscle built to receive. I think everybody thinks they know the answer, and they think that's why they're not connecting with their audience. What do you think is the biggest mistake people are making just trying to get the ball rolling as a producer, content creator?
Yeah, I think to speak to that, I think what a lot of people are doing is deciding that they know what people want and then providing that rather than asking, or rather than researching, or rather than really giving it some thought. For example, this is what I heard, and I tweeted this just because I thought it was funny. This is something that I learned from my own ignorance. When I first started uploading beats online, I thought, well, the only beats people want are the ones that sound like current mainstream music. So I should probably figure that out. And I remember Dream Life saying, no, that's not what people want from you. They don't want that from you. They want your soulful. That's what I like from you. That's what people like from you. And I got to thinking, every beat I've ever placed, from Ludacris and Rick Ross to Jeezy to The Game to Cool G Rap, whoever it is, even the more recent ones like Russ or Sammy and Lil Baby, it's like they all had something in common, which is that they felt like timeless, soulful, at least some element had the timeless, soulful feel of, the hip hop that I loved, the timeless golden era sound. So I just said, you know what? I don't care what people, what I'm going to take his advice. And that helped me a ton. That's why I say Dream Life is one of my mentors, because he said that. He was able to tell me something I didn't want to hear, and I was able to receive that and change my approach. And I benefited from it. I succeeded from it. Rather than argue with him and say, no, people want trap beats. People want me to remake a million Jetson beats. No, let Jetson have his style. Why do I need to encroach on him? I need my own lane. People will appreciate that more because they're not coming to DJ Payne 1 to hear someone else. They're coming to me to hear me. And I think that's a mistake a lot of people make. They assume people want something and then they deliver it. And when people don't respond, they blame the people.
Oh, you said they blame the people. That's interesting. Through memes, through tweets. They're like, look, these people don't know what's good music. That's funny because now that you said it that way, the video that I told you about, when I pulled up your drums, that video was a Rick Ross video about sampling. It was like a sample Rick Ross beat. And I was like, who better drums? So I associated that with your branding.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly the point. Having that brand association, it's not just about your colors or your logo. It's about your sound and how your music makes people feel. Period. And it's right down to, I have the word pain in my name. People always say you make pain music. Cash Money AP makes music that makes you feel rich. It's just, that's what it is. That's the branding.
Dang, I remember your stuff you used to put out on Twitter years ago. Now that you said it, like the dang that hurts and what was your creative names back then? Was it always dang that? I don't want to say dang because you're on YouTube. I ain't trying to F up the video. No, but what was the names of your, it was either a mixtape or it was a sound pack?
Painkillers. I had
Painkillers. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Painkillers
and that was a mixtape?
Damn That Hurt. Painkillers was a mixtape series, and then Damn That Hurt, which just kind of became the thing that I was doing, because I felt like that was totally intentional. It was a product of me sitting down and brainstorming, like, what's gonna be my thing. You know, I can't be like everybody else. Drama has gangster grills. What do I have? You know what I mean? What's my branding like? Because I'm a DJ and a producer, so I had to be really intentional about my branding. So that's what I came up with, and I kind of I kind of focus grouped it with some friends of mine, and we just went with it to see how it worked. And I think it worked because it tied everything together.
True. It was like the play on the name and the, what is it called, product line extensions and all this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that from a long time ago, whenever Painkillers was out. So that was when I didn't have as much of a, I don't want to say intimate because that sounds weird. Didn't have much of an idea of what your personality was. Even your branding stood out. I specifically remember, this is years ago, about the Painkiller series. Now,
yeah, we didn't talk that well. Because I wasn't an FL Studio user. I was just aware that everybody I knew was a student of Busyworks, pretty much. And I was like, damn, if I ever want to switch to FL, I know where to go.
Mm-hmm. True. Sometimes, like, I asked this to Ocean in our recent YouTube video, podcast, whatever you want to call it, conversation. And I was just like, when was the point where you felt like this was real? Like that you were changing people's lives for real? It could have been a comment, but what was that definitive point where you felt that responsibility to go hard?
God, I can't think of one definitive moment, but I know for me, it was when I started touring and people were showing up to the tour dates and saying, yo, I saw your video and it really helped. Just because suddenly this is a human standing in front of you. It's not just text. And sometimes the people didn't even know who I was. It was just my presence at the event and the music that I was playing, if it was music that I made, that inspired them to walk up to me and tell me that they felt something. And it was different, because you grow up affected by the music you listen to. You never think you're going to have that effect on other people because it's such a personal thing. Like when I grew up listening to, whatever I was listening to, Public Enemy, whoever, I was like, there's no way I'm ever going to have this impact on someone else. There's no way. Because this is just, you're listening to the music, you're by yourself, you're learning from it, you're associating it with the memories of, and whatever's happening at the time, and your surroundings and where you are at that point in your life. And all of a sudden you're doing it. And, for me, like, I don't want to talk about it, but, cause it's not out yet, but yeah, I've been doing a lot of records with Public Enemy. It's just a crazy, I never would have guessed it. It's just crazy to reflect on it. But I would be curious to hear when it became real to you, because you were obvious. And I read something that, and it's funny because our stories are similar. I read that you started putting FL Studio tutorials up just for your friends. You weren't trying to make them public.
I can't say I wasn't trying to make them public, but that's a good question. So, okay, so we're talking about the live thing and then this, but yeah, it started in a Facebook group, and I was in a Facebook group where a guy was trying to sell us on we all bought his book on how to sell beats online, funny enough. And we all had a common interest, and we were all producers, and we started talking, giving feedback. I remember it was fun to give people feedback. And then people would be like, my bass doesn't sound like whatever. So I would just be like, oh, I can help you with that. And I made a video on YouTube just because that was the place to put videos. And then I uploaded it to YouTube, and it was only meant for that person, but it ended up getting however many hundreds of views, whether from the group or wherever else. And then another person would ask. And again, with music production, you can't just be like, you can't type out how to like precisely chop a snare in whatever DAW you're using And then some things you just can't type out. Like sound design, you cannot type that out. I don't care how many books you have on sound design. You can't type out what it sounds like. And it was in that realization, then I just saw the numbers going up. So I was just genuinely helping a friend about his specific topic. The numbers went up. It just was that positive feedback cycle. So I just was like, oh, YouTube is the thing that's helping me grow. And then I just went in on YouTube. I think I bought a YouTube course on how to do better on YouTube for like $9. And I don't remember the definitive point where I went all the way in, but I do remember student loans were becoming real. And I was scared. So I was like, freak, I don't even have a job. Nobody's hiring. They all want 8 years of experience. I'm like, how am I supposed to have 8 years of experience coming out of a school for 4 years? There's no, even mathematically, it doesn't even work. Even if I was in the lab the whole time, mathematically, there's no way I could have 8 years. So I was like, this is all a sham. It was all a big lie. They sent us to school to take our money, put us in debt so we could work for them the rest of our lives. And then I was like, freak, student loans are coming. And I had to make something happen. The only thing I knew was when I used to make beats on my laptop before a biology test, I would always like procrastinate and do all this random stuff. I used to make it a joke with my roommate. I was like, you know what? We have a genetics test, time to make beats, time to cook some popcorn, time to just like we would do everything else except study for the test. So I just happened to fall back on music production when I went home for the breaks and when I had downtime. And I met up with friends who would freestyle all the time. We would have a lot of fun. And I didn't realize that was my real desire. I always thought that, I mean, medicine did excite me, but then I saw other stuff on the other side of medicine. Were you ever in the health fields? I feel like you mentioned it once. No?
No, I was in education, but yeah, really, really similar story. I actually love school. I really did. I would have stayed. But then it was like, as I was in grad school, all the #1 album stuff happens. I'm like, well, I can't let my mother down and not get this degree. So I got my master's and I was like, all right, cool. Now it's time to just quit my jobs and do the music thing. But producers are trying to find information. They're trying to turn their love for music into a livelihood. And there's just so much out there.
Okay, here's what it was. It was transitioning from a job. Okay, so here's two things, and I know I'm wordy, but this is important. Take a deep breath. Okay, so in the beginning, every single minimum wage job or bare minimum job, earning job, you exchange time for money. That's every job in the entire world that's minimum wage. You're exchanging your time for money. It's not necessarily skill based. You're trading your time for money. They pay you because you're on the clock. Okay? That's the first level in making money, is exchanging your time. That's the only thing everybody has is time. Now, rich people are smart. They don't sell their time anymore unless it's very high value time. So you have to create a system to transform the time that you're spending into money that you can later exchange the money for time again. And so in the beginning, take your job where you're exchanging your time for money, save 10% minimum. This is actually a principle in the Richest Man in Babylon book. It talks about pay yourself first. It just means automatically save 10% no matter what. Okay. So you take that 10%. Now that's the money you can now invest in your own business over time. So you're spending 80 hours a week at your job. You take 10% of that, and now you invest it in your side business. You take that money, you hire employees, you get the systems you need, you get the email autoresponder you need, whatever it is, and you try to buy other people's time or a service that can help you save a lot of time so that you can use your spare 20 hours of that week and invest it in your side business. I did the same exact thing. I used to work at the university's, what is it called, Dine Hall, or their, where else did I work? Basically, I was a swiper. And I could do my homework while I was at work. So that's why I did it. So I took that money, and on the side, I had a YouTube channel, but I had to wait like months to get paid because this is back when, YouTube had those payment thresholds. I think it had to be over $100, and I would only get paid like every 2 months. So this was money that was actually supplementing me getting through college. So my full time was college. My part time was the part time Dine job. And my second part time was the YouTube revenue. So those 2 part times were letting me survive so that I can spend full time at university, because you had to pay for food and pay for some things, gas and everything else. Not housing necessarily because I had a scholarship, but still I had to pay for some stuff. So after that point, I then a switch flipped after school. Since now school's not an obligation of my time, I now have full time access again. So now I take all that time and I put it into one of those part-time elements, which in this case happened to be the YouTube element, because it was something that was making money. It was a proven thing to make money. Whereas a part-time job wasn't proven to go above $7 an hour. It was limited. So now I'm taking time, investing it for money. Now I'm taking even more time that I've found, but invested in something that gives me just a little bit more money for my time spent. So it's not necessarily exchanging money for time yet, but at least we're getting more money for our time. After that point, you then take the money that you're earning from all those things that you're into and buy your time back through employees or systems or whatever you need, BeatStars accounts. Can you imagine sending an email every time somebody wanted to order something? First of all, you would get disorganized. And second of all, people would get pissed because they're hitting you up at 3 a.m. Germany time and you're asleep. And so people get mad about that. So you have to have systems. So you take that money, invest it into systems and processes and a team and whatever else you need, and then you get to buy back your time again. And that's how you get out of the rat race. It's not something where a lot of people tell people to quit their jobs and all this, but ultimately it takes time. Time is the only thing that everybody has. It's just, where do you invest that time? So that was my long roundabout answer to the job element. There was another portion that you asked about, though. Was it sales? How to sell stuff?
Well, let's run down some of these questions, because I think that might be embedded in some of these. So Red Panda earlier wanted to know if you recommended any music producer books or any books that help with these concepts that you're throwing out there throughout the conversation.
Nope. Just watch people's YouTubes. You're going to get more information from DJ Pain 1 and myself, because we're living books. If you read a book right now, whenever it was published, it's already outdated. Because music moves so fast. But that's the fun part. It's always moving. There's no, even if you learn how to do sidechain compression, the next artist may not use sidechain compression in their music. So you got to keep moving with the times. Keep up with the leaders. Keep up with DJ Pain 1. Keep up with myself. Find the leaders and just leech from them. There's no book. There's no magical business book that's going to change your life. If anything, you guys need to study other types of books. And if they want a list of books I recommend, we can get into that. But it's not music related.
So Jay said, and this is directed to you, you mentioned not wanting to not live up to the potential and purpose. What edged you over not worrying about the financial part? Not worrying about the financial part of, that's kind of confusing. So I think what he's asking is, what made you focus less on squeezing money out of your time and more on spending time to serve the purpose?
Oh, gotcha. I think that's his projection onto what I said. That's not what I said. I said I'm living up to my potential, and I'm not afraid to die, meaning emotionally, spiritually. I've already died 1,000 times. And what I'm saying by living up to my potential, I had to realize, okay, if my assignment's to give Bibles, guess what that's going to take? A network of people to even give Bibles to, and it's going to take money. Bibles are not cheap. They're not free. So I have to earn money for one, and I have to have a network of people that actually want them. So to do that, you have to have a business or some kind of income to even make that happen. So that's when I realized I'm not demonizing money. And I think subconsciously that person just demonized money as in opposition to his purpose. Like, oh, I should do everything for free because that's what I was meant to do. What's her name? Who's the saint, or what's her name? The old lady that went around the earth. She was super peaceful, and she was like a nun. What is her name? Mother Teresa. Guess how much Mother Teresa was worth when she passed away?
How much?
Hundreds of millions of dollars. She was not some poor lady walking around the earth. So that's why religion tends to bind us financially. So if you wanted to get into that, I mean, we can get into that.
I think being a creative does too. Also, I think creatives, we have a whole vocabulary to describe people who make money off their music: industry plants, sellouts, You know what I mean? So it's similar to the I guess religious guilt that people feel. Here's another question from Jem. She says, I want to do everything I've seen you recommend, but I'm overwhelmed with paperwork and chores. I guess that's not really a question.
As far as
and
the job,
that's one of those yeah, but everyone's going through that. I don't know. Do you have any insight?
Yeah, I was going to speak on that. So I think that's an excuse, and it goes back to what you're saying about accountability. Like if you mapped out every hour of the day, you have 24 hours in one day, you sleep for maximum 8, so that leaves 16 other hours during the day. You work for 8, assuming that you're working hardcore nonstop all 8 hours, which most of you are robbing your employers. You just say you're on the job for 8 hours. You're not working for 8 hours. And I know because I have a team and I monitor my team, and I know they're not working every second they say they're working. So in theory, you're robbing your employer for 8 hours and you're calling it 8. Okay. Then you have another additional 8 hours to do what with? That's your time that you can invest in anything. And when I ask people, what do they do with the extra 8 hours a day? They're like, I don't know. It's not like you're commuting anywhere. Some people may commute. That eats up a lot of time. Even if you're commuting, are you absorbing information? Are you learning? What are you doing during your commute? How are you eating up the other 8 hours of your time? Most of the time it's social media, texting, talking to other people on the phone, and you just drain all your bank account. All you have is time. So if you keep spending, like it's a bank account, if you keep spending the coins of time in your bank account, there's no way it's going to grow if you keep spending. So that's what I have to say about that. I think it's an excuse. Maybe you needed the reality from me.